Hi guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. This is Dr. Dan here, your clinical dementia specialist. I'm joined today by my wife and colleague Lynn. Hi Lynn.
Good morning.
And we're going to talk about the impact of hallucinations in people living with dementia and how caregivers can manage it, how we treat and manage it, and what are the best ways of approaching and intervening and engaging with somebody who is actively experiencing a hallucination. So let's start by talking about what a hallucination is. Think of your five senses. Vision. So we have a visual hallucination. You see things. People might see small children playing in the corner of the room. Some people might see horrendous visions, particularly people with Lewy body type dementia. Their visual hallucinations can be very, very intense and very scary, and it could be seeing snakes on the walls or creatures crawling all over the carpet or on their skin, on their body, in the initial environment, immediate environment. So that's the visual. And then olfactory hallucination, being able to smell something that isn't there. And that's what we call an olfactory hallucination. And it can be a trigger for people's behaviour. All these hallucinations can be triggers for people's unwanted behaviour, unwanted by them, unwanted by everyone around them. So olfactory. And then we've got tactile hallucination, a feeling that somebody or something is touching us or crawling on the skin. And then of course we have auditory, maybe hearing voices, hearing sounds, hearing music, hearing things that other people cannot hear. So we've got taste, which is the gustatory. You can taste things that we cannot taste. It's not, it's a hallucination. It's a gustatory hallucination triggered by the taste. So those are the five hallucinations that people experience. And people with various types of dementia at some point in their journey will experience hallucinations. So we always have to observe for it, we always have to be aware of it, and we always have to be thoughtful about it. Now, back in 2008, I was the UK's senior dementia specialist, dementia consultant. And one of the things I did along with other doctors and consultants was worked with the government on a document called Always a Last Resort, which was an inquiry into the overprescribing of antipsychotic medicines for people living in care homes, nursing homes. Why did we do that? Why did we have to do that in 2008? It's because antipsychotic medicines on the whole are not very useful for managing hallucinations or people who have what we call BPSD, which is the behavioural and psychological symptoms of dementia. Whilst sometimes we have to use it, it must be as a last resort. And that is what that inquiry was about, and the research demonstrated that by overprescribing this medication, we were terminating people's lives prematurely. Okay, so this was addressed and this stopped, and it became, as we said, a last resort. So what can we do instead of, or in addition to, an antipsychotic medicine? And it's okay to use a very, very tiny amount of an antipsychotic medicine as an adjunct to treatment to help treat the hallucinations from a non-pharmacological point of view. So what are they? So what we need to be doing when somebody's experiencing a hallucination is validating their belief, validating their experience. We've talked about this many, many times in my videos, stepping into that individual's world. Never do we say, well, I can't see anything, there's nothing there. We never say that. we always support and validate the person's belief system. So we can actually say to somebody, okay, I can see that's distressing you. So how about we move to a different room, or we go for a walk, or we have a conversation, or go and watch a movie, go have dinner, those kind of things. Never ever say, oh, there's nothing there, it's okay, it'll be all right, it'll go away. Here's why. Whilst I was working in the UK, I had a patient with Lewy body dementia. He and his wife always used to watch Coronation Street. UK folks know what that is. And they both had a sofa, and they both used to lie on their own sofa. And they lived out in the country, and they were watching Coronation Street. And when the commercial came on, my patient said to his wife, there's a frog on the edge of the sofa. She didn't look. She said, it'll be all right, it'll go away, just focus on the show and it'll go away. So, being the, what's the word? Being the husband that he is, doing as he's told, right? He thought, okay, carried on watching the show. And then when it finished, he turned to his wife and said, the frog's still on the sofa. And she looked, not expecting to see a frog at the end of the sofa, but there was a frog at the edge of, or sitting on the edge of the sofa. So, always believe, always validate, and always engage with that person at the moment that they say something's happening. They can hear voices, they can see something, they can taste something, they can hear something, they can smell something. We validate, we engage, okay? Now, sometimes we can treat, if these are pronounced, if they're very, very profound, we can maybe use some of the anti-dementia drugs that may help ease those hallucinations, may ease some of the behavioural and psychological symptoms that come as part of that hallucination. So things like Aricept, things like galantamine, rivastigmine, things like memantine may help, particularly with people who have Lewy body dementia. It might be required to use something like Abilify, quetiapine, clozapine, haloperidol, Risperdal. But if it is indicated, then it must be the smallest dose possible for the shortest time possible, so that we can get that person through that really complicated part of the journey, distressing part of the journey. So the impact can lead to unwanted behaviour, as we said. People might get a little bit aggressive, they might get agitated, they might get frustrated, they might get scared, they're going to be afraid and anxious. What can you, as a direct, informal caregiver, do with that? So husband, wife, son, daughter, mother, father, what can you do? Well, in addition to validating that person's experiences, just listen, be observant, be supportive, give a lot of love and a lot of open body language. Don't show that this is scaring you, because it can be scary. If somebody around you is experiencing a hallucination and behaving in a very unusual way, it can be quite scary, can't it? It can be a frightening thing to experience. So unless you come, like I do, from a forensic psychiatric and a forensic psychological background, who is used to that kind of thing, it can be scary. So don't show any fear. It's something that the person is experiencing, just like they may experience it being too hot or being too cold. You know, just see it as that. Being hungry, not hungry, being hot, being cold. Having a hallucination is something that you can effectively manage and effectively ease for that individual if you stay calm, you stay collected, you engage, you validate, and you can go and do something that is interesting, something that is constructive, and something that eases that individual. Sometimes, and I've experienced this, where people smile and are happy, because the hallucination is something about little children playing over there. They're playing, some little children, and the person's watching that and smiling because they are enjoying seeing these children playing. So it's not always a negative experience. It's not always a scary, frightening, anxious experience. But on the whole, it can be. And, you know, think about nighttime. There's another thing we can do here, which is change the environment around. We did a video some time ago about environment, and if it's going dark, we may be addressing sundowning syndrome, and we've talked about that in a previous video. But there's also things like, if there's a hat and coat and umbrella stand in the corner, that can give the impression to somebody living with a dementia type illness, that can give the impression of it being somebody, being a person standing there staring at them, looking at them. So bear in mind the environment as well, okay? But engaging, validating, that's the key, that's the secret. Engage and validate. Now, if you were to look at Always a Last Resort, which you can Google and find online, it's worth looking at. And it came about because a lady, her dad lived in a home for people with dementia in the northwest of England. And each time she went to visit him, he seemed to be more drowsy. He seemed to be getting worse outside of the dementia type symptoms. And it turned out that the doctor responsible for that home, which wasn't me, I was responsible for many, but that wasn't one of them, he'd been prescribing medicine after medicine after medicine. The guy had been experiencing hallucinations, he'd been falling, he'd been having all kinds of other responses to the medication, so he was shipped off to hospital. The junior doctor in hospital didn't know what to do other than prescribe more medication. So he came back, and this happened a couple of times, and she was really concerned, and she took a video into the home and spoke to the doctor, who said, well, if you don't like what I'm doing, take him out of here, you know, which is totally unacceptable. So she did that, and eventually he died, and the autopsy proved that he had died of an overdose of antipsychotic medication. So she brought the video to the government, and they watched the video, and a group of politicians from various parties, it's called an all-party political group inquiry, decided that this is what we should do. So take a look at it, you might find it really interesting. I'm going to wrap this up now, so if you have any questions, please send them to me via YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, my email, drdan@drdanielnightingale.com, lynn@drdanielnightingale.com. We're always happy to help. We're always happy to answer your questions. Go to the website, drDanielNightingale.com. You can find me on there. And yeah, that's pretty much a wrap. So I want you to have a fantastic day, a fantastic week. Keep smiling, stay happy, stay upbeat, stay positive. And remember, guys, say it with me, dump the soda.